Hey everyone, welcome back. All right, today we're going to talk about Corepunk. This is a game that I have played and covered a fair bit through the course of its development. If you don't recall, it is the top-down action combat game that plays much like a MOBA, but in an open MMORPG world. The game has got many of the expected features of the genre. There's leveling and character progression, an open world made up of different biomes, all full of enemies, points of interest, and quests to do. You got gathering and crafting, and there's a variety of PvE dungeons and PvP activities and events. Now, last time we covered the game was all the way back in November of 2024. In the time since, things have changed a bit, with several patches bringing numerous updates and improvements. Today's video is sponsored. Artificial Core reached out and asked me to jump back into the game to check out some of the changes myself, and so today that is exactly what we are going to be doing. I have played this go-around for roughly another 20 hours over the course of the past week. Let's talk about what I saw. All right, so one of the first things I noticed when coming back to the game were all of these little early game quality of life improvements. There seem to be quite a few here. So for example, in prior builds, it would take like upwards of 5 hours before I got my first weapon. You essentially start the game weaponless, you have a basic attack, and it looks like you're holding weapons, but you don't actually have your first weapons equipped. And the only way to get an upgrade was to either craft it or buy it. So getting the mats to craft one took forever. Again, I think my first go around, it took like 10 hours before I got a weapon upgrade. The second time it was about 5. It's largely due to the fact that you have to heavily rely on RNG drops from the resources you harvest, and the game's got kind of an interesting twist on resource gathering and crafting, where the more you do of one activity, the less proficient you get in the other ones, which forces you to essentially focus on doing one type of gathering and one type of crafting. But I digress. It took a long time to craft your first weapon, and similarly, buying a weapon was quite expensive, and considering that gold was rather limited, it took a long time to farm much of it, what you needed for the mount, but then also if you wanted to buy a weapon, that also took quite a long time to work up to. Well, now crafting still exists and you can still buy weapons. Those are both still avenues of getting weapons early on, but also they straight up drop them as well. You will just find weapons by killing enemies and opening chests. And then I don't know how long the attacks buff lasts, but they're even dropping weapons now? I know I said this earlier, but I'm not exaggerating with you. It used to take over 10 hours before you'd get your first weapon, and now they're just fucking dropping weapons. Whoever's consulting for these guys, you're making good decisions. And the same also applies for much of the other loot in the game. Stuff that in the past had to either be crafted or purchased can and will now often drop as well. This is a massive and welcome improvement. In fact, one of the best outcomes of this is that you are now constantly getting artifacts, which outside of weapons, artifacts are like the biggest boost to your character power. This is how you get big increases in your survivability and your offensive potential. This is where your character strength comes from, and now you're getting them to drop. Dude, I can't believe they just dropped these now. That alone is such a nice change. Literally, it used to be such a pain in the ass to get these. This is where all your power comes from. It's these, I think they're called artifacts. And you have 6 slots, and this is how you decide, am I getting melee damage, spell damage, sort of modifiers, my health defenses, my attack speed. All of your RPG stat modifying skills come from these artifacts in these 6 slots. That's basically your gear in this game. It used to take forever to even get basic ones, and now they're just dropping them randomly. That alone is such a big, nice change, because then you're getting stuff and you can play with different builds. I remember in the original beta taking like 10 hours before I had a full thing of artifacts, and they weren't even the ones I really wanted either. And then on top of that, just across the board, you are getting way more of everything that drops in this game now. More crafting resources, more gold to buy the things that you need, more healing items, more buff items, more consumables, more of everything. It just seems like they have multiplied everything in the game that drops. They've multiplied the amount that you're getting by like 5 or 10 times the amount. It's crazy. They also give you massively more rewards than they used to. You know how long it used to take to get 10 campfires? You would have to harvest trees for like 5 hours. It sounds like I'm being hyperbolic, but I'm not. You used to have to harvest trees for like 5-10 hours before you could get enough wood to make 10 campfires. Also, holy crap, they have definitely definitely drastically increased the acquisition rate for gold. There is no way. I've played this character for less than 30 minutes and I already have almost 50 gold. That took way longer in the past. So now we're at the point where I am just swimming in all of the game's basic resources and I'm quite more readily acquiring gold compared to how I did in the past. Now, beyond the changes to all of those resources and item drops, I also have noticed quite a few other nice quality of life improvements. So for one, they have moved and adjusted much of the terrain and navigation in the intro, which was nice. Oh, this is way different too. He used to be like easy to miss basically. He was on the main path, but it was easy to miss him if you just went straight through the woods. And now he's like right there next to the start. Dude, they have adjusted a lot already. They have added quest markers, so now for most of the quests that you get, it's going to show you the object's general vicinity on your map. The world map also has gotten some major improvements, both visual but also in functionality. The map looks great now. My dude, it looks so much better. They still have the like Google Earth style when you zoom in, you know what I mean? They still have this, but this new artistic layer, it's not even just how it visually like makes the POIs pop. They also have shit you can click on that tells you, here's where you get metal veins and this is what can drop. Here are the NPCs in this location and this is what they can drop. It's like they put the wiki in the game. It's so good. These quality of life things that they've done are so much better, dude. I think it might depend on where you've been though, because like I don't think I have that for areas I haven't been yet. You see, there's no clickables here, but in the places that I have explored, they do have them. It shows the level range of them as well. They have finally added out of combat health and mana regeneration. This was a sticking point for a very long time, and it's now been included in the game. Oh, looks like they added... They finally added out of combat regeneration. This was not happening before unless you had food buffs. So basically you got stuff like this. You sit at a campfire, it increases the efficiency of it. But it used to be that you had 0 regeneration unless you were above 90% health. So what you would always be doing is I would always be carefully entering combat, trying to take as little damage and use as little mana as possible to make sure I stayed above 90% health so I could even get a smidgen of regen. Now it actually exists. Now they actually have out of combat regeneration. It's slow, but it's better than nothing. This is an amazing, maybe obvious, positive addition. So I'm glad it's finally here. And the fifth major thing that I noticed is that world traversal is just far less tedious. For one, I'm like 99.9% sure that they increased the baseline move speed. And you know what? I actually do think that they've increased move speed. Unless I'm going crazy, I feel like I'm moving faster than I recall. Like, I feel like I'm moving some 5 to 10% faster than I recall characters moving. So I feel like they may have increased the base move speed. All of these quality of life tweaks have just dramatically improved the starter and leveling experience compared to how it was when I've leveled characters in prior builds in the 100+ hours that I played the game prior to this recent revisit. Now, there's still definitely a lot of struggle and a lot of things to figure out. Like, for example, they do not highlight if an NPC has an available quest for you or not. That actually requires you manually clicking on the NPC to check if they've got one for you available. On top of that, the game is definitely still hard, even just right out the gate. Those are some overly tough rats. I mean, this game is kind of, that's kind of this game. Yeah. Everything's like a little on the hard side, even with all the streamlining they've done. But across the board, the intro and onboarding experience is just far more enjoyable now that they have made things a bit less like punishingly grindy. You can still keep the adventure, the mystery, and the challenge there without making it take 5 to 10 hours before you get your first weapon or artifact. And the changes that they've made, in addition to everything else that I've mentioned, have just really gone a far, far way. Now, beyond those quality of life improvements, the game has also got a lot more content from the last time that I played. I don't know, and I wonder how big the map is now. Oh my god, wow. Dude, even this already is, like, that's huge. So the last time that I played, Golden Field Town was the main area, and then we also had Dusttide Forest, we had the Westwind Woods, the Windreach Woods, think Northern Windreach was in, and then these areas were in. This Tempest Timberland area looks different than what I remember though, so maybe that's new. All of this is new from what I played. I've never seen any of this stuff. They have made a bunch of changes to all of the classes with improvements and overhauls to how things work, the functions, the skills. I noticed quite a few of these in the process of re-leveling my shaman, all of which were really nice updates. Oh, and I get my ultimate now. So 60-second cooldown. How long do they last? Isn't it perpetually? The shaman summons a wolf. Connection between them, attack power, all that stuff. 50% of the shaman stats. The wolf dies. Wolf gains a stack of elemental mastery with each hit. 4 stacks. Instead of auto attack, the wolf will use a paw strike. Wow. Cool. What? I don't remember that. So it can heal me now if I'm on the healing totem. Oh my god, dude. Yes. Mate. I actually feel strong now. It's amazing. So the wolf attacks a bunch of times and then pops an AoE heal on me. I self-heal after every mob dies. Oh my god, dude. It's so good. So I'm gonna like hit this, and then I'm gonna switch to this. And then once he pops, he'll pop everything. That's great, dude. And then also, in addition to that stuff, some of the additional quality of life and content improvements and additions include they have overhauled the weapon talent UI, adding new connecting nodes between the different talent rows, which in and of itself has opened up a lot more potential build variety. In the past, you had to build from left to right horizontally, basically picking a skill that you wanted to focus on improving. Now, partway through that chain, you can connect down to an advanced skill in another row without having to start that row from the beginning. Again, a lot more build variety here as a result of that. They've also added episode 3 of the main story quest line with a total of 83 additional quests, sending players deep into the new zone of the steps. They've added this new content type called Prison Island, which is a high stakes full loot instance area with both PvP and PvE modes, featuring its own unique bosses, valuable loot, and tactical extraction mechanics. They introduced a dungeon keycard and affix system so that for the existing dungeons in the game, you can now scale the difficulty with up to 12 levels of increasing challenge and monster affixes that you can add. They added a cross-server player-driven auction house, the inventory and bank search functionality, a bank tab customization options. There are brand new enemy types. They have reduced the grind for leveling, gathering, and crafting systems, both of which are now twice as fast to max out, and a whole bunch more. In fact, since last November, they have pushed out over 70 patches for the game, which have added somewhere over 200 additional features and improvements. As for what's next, well, in a recent blog post, they have laid out some of their immediate upcoming plans, which include arenas. They're going to have a classic PvP arena where players compete against each other on these random assortment of maps. There's also going to be PvE arenas where 2 parties compete to try to take down a boss the fastest within a time limit. There's also going to be new dungeons added to the game. Specifically, they've got one in the Depot Zone coming. There are going to be several new PvP modes with both small and medium-sized battlegrounds to partake in, along with a bunch of additional quality of life improvements, bug fixes, gameplay improvements, and balance changes. In fact, around this upcoming September, they are aiming to start working on introducing these things, including brand new hero classes, the guild system, as well as a bunch of active open world events, which is something I'm really hopeful for. Now, as for what I've done in this revisit, well, I made my new shaman. It looks like they had wiped all of the prior characters from the build that I played prior. I went through and redid all of the quests in the starter zones that I had experienced in the past. I also leveled my character all the way up to the current character level max, which is 20, and started working my way towards getting some max level gear and exploring the new zones that I have not yet seen. Again, I am about 20 hours into this recent playthrough. I do plan to keep on going and exploring some of the new endgame PvE and PvP content that I've yet to see, and I might very well do a follow-up video covering that stuff as well, because I have been genuinely enjoying it. Now, in this revisit, some stuff has stood out in areas of improvements that I want to continue to see. They've definitely made a lot of great quality of life improvements, a lot more features and content from what I saw in the past, but there's some more stuff I would like. I'd like to see some gathering changes. For example, I would love for them to make it so that you would always get a baseline basic resource every time you harvested a node, with then the chance to get those rare resources as a bonus on top of that. I'd also like to see them change just how harvesting works. So right now, as you level up in harvesting, you basically do more of the craft. So you start off with the ability to, say, chop chop a tree one time and get one resource to go from it. But then eventually it goes all the way up to like 4, or I think maybe it goes to 5. I've seen up to 4 chops. So you chop the tree and then you do it 2, 3, 4 times. I think they should just make it so that you have one harvest and then you get that many more times the drops from it. So you're always chopping a tree, the progress bar fills up one time, except as a lower level, you get 1 item and then 2, 3, 4 items dropping, and in addition to getting the chance at the higher rarity ones. Those are some changes I think I would personally like to see to the crafting. Dynamic world events, which sounds like something they might be adding, but I've yet to see. And all of the time that I've played, I haven't seen like these dynamic events popping up without in the world, and I think adding them would just make the world feel a lot more alive and dynamic. Things like skeletons coming and invading the farmlands in Goldenfield, or maybe world bosses that randomly spawn and wander along the game's main paths. Stuff like that could be really cool and add a lot more sense of a living world to the game. I'd love to see it. I'd also love to see a lot more structured PvE. Now, they have been introducing dungeons, though I think they could use far more than is currently in the game. In fact, I think that pretty much every single zone should have at least 1 or 2 dungeons in there. Like the starter zone of Goldenfield, there should be a dungeon where you go in to like a rat burrow or a gnat nest or something, and you fight a bunch of them, and you fight a boss version of the rats or the gnats, you know? Stuff like that. I think every zone, every major area should have 1 or 2 dungeons. I think that would add a lot more depth to the game world and the content variety. Some UI options I noticed missing that I'd like. For example, enemy nameplates are constantly overlapping on my own character's health bar, but also just covering my character physically so that I can't see them. The nameplates are a layer above, so I would love to have the option to prioritize nameplate layers and or stacking options like other MMOs do. I do think I want to see if there's a way to change something about the nameplates that's a little more obtrusive that I remember. That it's like blocking my character. Something about it that I don't love. I don't think it's in here, but I definitely want to adjust like the nameplates because they feel like they're cutting my visibility on my character. Like they keep overlapping on top of my character in combat, but I don't see anything about it really. And then in playing again and going through the leveling process once more, I realized I think it'd be really nice if we just had like a baseline dodge for all characters. It doesn't have to be a huge thing. I don't need to be dodging 10 meters off of the screen, but even like a short 2 to 3 meter dash on a cooldown, it feels like it would work really well with this game's combat system, and especially with how much of it is about like proper positioning from your opponents and away from their attacks and all of that. I think a cooldown based dodge for characters as a baseline, or maybe just for certain classes, I don't know, would be really nice. And the reason I bring this up is because my Q ability, which is like has me dashing towards an enemy and rooting them into place, it has a follow-up dodge ability, and using that dodge ability made me realize I would just like that as a baseline. Oh my god, dude. Again, it can be on like it can be a long cooldown. It could be on a 30-second cooldown or something, but I think that would be a nice addition to the game for like repositioning for all characters. All in all, I gotta say, I think they're making some really great improvements to the game, and while I still want to see more, I've definitely enjoyed my revisit thus far. Like first impressions after having been gone and haven't played for some months. I think it's been 6 or more months since I last played, but the updates that they've added here, like the quality of life, it feels so much better. It feels like way less of a slog now with so many of the updates that they've added. The fact that they now have markers of your quest locations on the map, the fact that they now have this new map that's like artistically highly detailed and also gives you information about the different things that you can click on and get details about like what drops, and you get a better look at the POIs compared to the previously existing topography map that looks like a Google map thing. Like this layer is so nice. Again, they show quest locations. The systems are a lot more fleshed out. I'm pretty positive that they increased move speed. It at least feels faster than I remember. The fact that they now drop constantly weapons as well as the implants where you get all your power from, implants basically being the gear. Like it's just like one thing after another. A lot of really nice quality of life that just makes the game feel way better. You know what I mean? It feels way smoother, way less like a struggle. My hope in all honesty is that they just keep plugging away, adding more quality of life wherever it makes sense, more content as much as possible, and getting the game into as good of a state as they can for the full 1.0 release, which according to their recent blog, as of now, they are still aiming to launch into 1.0 by the end of this year. I do think eventually coming to Steam would also make a whole lot of sense, although I'm not sure if and when they plan to do so, but certainly that would help attract a bunch more players to the game, and if they do, I definitely think it's worth waiting once more until the game is finished in 1.0 and as good a state as it can be with as much content and as polished as possible to give people the best first impressions. As for like a community desire for this, I'll just leave this anecdote. During my revisit, I spent some portion of that time streaming the game, and no exaggeration, like every 5 minutes, someone new would ask, hey, is Corepunk out on Steam yet? To which I always had to reply, no, it's not, and I don't think they've said whether or not they're planning to do a Steam release. So when will this be on Steam? Really don't know. I don't think they've said anything about it. I think they're just still soldiering on with developing the current iteration of the game and presumably waiting till they get it in a spot where they think it's going to have the highest chance of success, which, you know. Also, with how often chat asks, it shows you how much people are looking for about the Steam release. Exactly. I know. As much as people might not like it, that's 100% the case. Clearly, there's a lot of interest from people wanting to play this game if it came to Steam. So I think that would make sense at some point, even if it's not immediately at 1.0 release, sometime after, right? All right, well, there you have it, an updated look at Corepunk. Hopefully you enjoyed the vid. If you want to check out the game for yourself, we've of course got links available in the description below. But that about does it for today. Thank you again to Artificial Core for sponsoring this video. Thank you, of course, all for watching. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.